Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to photograph your products for Etsy or your online business. Now if you're new around here, welcome. My name is Dahlia, also known as the Handmade Mastermind, and I make videos on online business tips, how to drive traffic to your website, product development, personal development, finance, money, and all that good stuff. So if that sounds of interest to you, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you can also receive notifications when I post new videos, okay? So let's get started. How to photograph products for your Etsy shop or even your online business. Well, first of all, you should know that online product photos are super important. That is the way people get to see your products, right? So if your product photos suck, then there's a very good chance you won't reach your potential. You may still sell, probably not, but you won't reach the potential that you need to be reaching, especially for your product. So I want to go over a few different things for you that will help you take better photos. And then, which is a really good bonus for you guys, toward the end of this video, I'm going to show you how to edit those photos in Photoshop. Now, I'm going to teach you in Photoshop because that's what I have. But if you have a similar, photo editing program, you can pretty much use a free one that has exact same tools that Photoshop uses. I only use a few different types of tools in Photoshop to actually get the same results I'm showing you, okay? And I find that the things I'm going to teach you in this, Photoshop tutorial toward the end will help a majority of online sellers, because I see a lot of photos online, I coach a lot of people, and I see the exact things that people do wrong when it comes to their photos. But before we get into that, I'm gonna go over some basics, okay? So you don't need much to get started, okay? You first need a camera. A lot of times cell phones work just fine as long as you have a newer model. I mean, when I say newer, I mean don't be pulling out a flip phone, okay? But most people have the newer models that have a decent camera on them, and the pixels are fine, so it should work just fine. You don't have to invest money in a camera, okay? I personally have the one I'm recording on now, which is the Canon G7X. It is fantastic for a lot of different reasons, not just photo taking, okay? So if you have some money to spend, that's a great camera. I personally wouldn't get it just for product photography. If you want to do videos of your family and things like that, then fine. But as far as return on investment, I wouldn't just get it for, for photos of your product. However, again, if you have money to spend, then go ahead and do so. I also have, a long time ago, I purchased this guy. It's the Canon Rebel T3. I think there's a newer model out. It might be the T5. I don't know. I'll link them down below, my old model, and if there's a new one. But this older model is just fine. When I do product photography, I will, depending on my mood or whatever, I might use this one, or I might use the one I'm recording on. I don't use my cell phone because I have these two obviously with me. But this one's a really great one. It's obviously a little more heavy duty, so I don't take it around with me. So when I do product photography, which is usually in-house or around my home, it makes the most sense because it's larger. And it's a lot of features on here that are, yes, similar to the G7X I'm recording on right now, but there's some more that that are just better with this camera. Again, I don't recommend investing in this one if you are newer to selling online, if you're not making too much money. But again, if you have the money to spend, this or the Canon G7X would probably be the best bet. So you need a camera of some sort, whatever you have. And you need a white background. Now, if you don't photograph on white backgrounds because that's not your branding, that's fine. Pick a background that works within your market, within your branding, okay? And you also need some natural light. Now, natural light, when I say natural light, I don't mean direct natural light, okay? When the sun is glaring, you don't want it to be on your product. It just won't make for a good photo. So you want it to be like a cloudy day. You want to, even if it's a sunny day, you don't want the sun to be directly shining through your window or anything of that sort, okay? So it has to be indirect. And you need some props. I mean, not every product photo has to have props in it, but if it makes sense for your business, I want you to have that. So that's the only things that you need. And your hands. So besides that, before we get started into me actually showing you me taking photos, okay, I want to go over a few things. I give these tips all the time, but I need to go over it here just to kind of, you know, refresh your memory. One, before you start any product photography, if you don't really have like a style down, it's important to get your style down. Here's a few tips. One, go online, whether it to be Etsy, you know, Pinterest, anywhere people sell products, and look around for product photography that really captures you, that interests you, that catches your attention, and favorite it or like it or pin it or whatever, right? To a secret board or whatever. And as you start to gather the things that catch your attention when it comes to you, your branding, your product type, you will start to have like this library of photos. And when you look back at this library of photos, you're going to say, okay, what is the elements here? What is the common denominator here that interests me? And for me, I'm gonna give you an example. It would be white backgrounds. It would be, you know, the certain props that get used within stationery. It would be the flat lays. I tend to do flat lays a lot, which is, you know, the product on the whiteboard and then me taking a picture right above, you know, like directly above, like eagle eye view. Is that what they call it? Bird's eye view? I don't know. So I'm trying to think of the common denominators here, and what you're going to do is figure out what the common denominators are of photos that you think are very attractive, that you absolutely love, okay? Thinking about what's being used inside the photo, the background, the cropping of the photo, the positioning of the camera, the colors being used, etc. Write those all down, and then you can start to understand what your style is, okay? And what your photos should look like. If you skip this part and you just take photos of your products, you know, okay, fine, I could help you with Photoshop toward the end of this video and help you change the lighting and all that stuff, but they still won't be like, wow, okay? It's important you do this research first to understand how your photo should look like. That may require you to go out and buy some props after you figure out what your style is, you know, buy a new whiteboard for your background, whatever, but regardless, it still needs to happen, okay? After you do all that product research, then I want you to create your setup. That means you're ready to take photos, okay? You thought it through, you know what you want it to look like, take your photos. So I'm gonna take you right now and show you how I'm gonna take photos, okay? This is what I do. Now, disclaimer, I currently use a photographer. I don't take my own photos because I'm very, very, very busy. However, there are some photos that I have online that are still my own. My notepad photos are all my own from my online shop, and I will post a couple right here. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, for you to take a look at. Those are my own. However, I did hire somebody because I just don't have enough time, and that's that. But I can still teach you on what to do to make it, you know, a really attractive photo, because if I did have the time, I would produce photos that are fantastic, just like my photographers, okay? Probably she's a little bit better because she's a professional, but you know what I'm saying. It'll definitely suffice. So let me literally take the camera and take you to my little setup that I have for you guys. And I actually have my camera. I have a, you know, a stationery that I'm gonna take a picture of, and I'm gonna show you the exact techniques that I would recommend you do when you create your setup. Okay, it's really simple. Again, I have a whiteboard, but you may have a different type of background. I suggest, you know, getting your background ready. And if it is not a flat lay, that's fine. Just focus in on the tips I'm giving you, because the biggest part comes to cropping, when I teach you that later on Photoshop, and editing the photo, okay? Because I find that some people's photos are actually pretty decent, give or take, but their editing is really bad. But I still want to go through this part for you, okay? So let me set you up in, you know, 1 second to get a good view here. Hold on. Okay guys, I'm back. So I just set up my camera so you could see me take photos. Again, I'm by a window for natural light, and I happen to have a white table sitting here. If you don't, I'd recommend obviously a white board, or the background color that you would prefer, or the background that you prefer, the background texture or whatever, okay? So let me go get my stationery items and my camera and all that stuff, and I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna start taking photos. Okay guys, I am back. I have my sample item. Of course, you would have your product. This video is obviously very helpful if you have a flat lay, but if you don't and you need help, excuse me, with photos that are not like eagle eye view, then comment down below. Tell me what product type you have. Tell me what type of background you're using, and maybe I will be able to do a second video to this to show you, for, you know, product photography that is not just a flat lay, okay? But let me know down below in the comments. Anyway, so I'm gonna set this up. It's really important that, again, you look at the notes that you took when you start to do your research on photos and see how you're gonna set up your product. Remember I told you to look at the common denominators. What stands out to you? The color, the props, the background, the positioning, the cropping of the photos, everything. So you should by now, after doing that, heavy duty research, know how you're gonna set up your products. And so for me, I want this envelope at a little angle, and let me show you really quick. So this is how it looks like, okay? I obviously don't have any props around here at the moment, but I don't feel like looking through my big prop drawer because there's a lot going on in there. But I would usually put probably like a pen or potentially just some paper clips and things that's stationary like, okay? But that's what I want you to do. I want you to make sure you're putting props that make sense and that follow your branding, okay? So I have my camera ready. And again, eagle's eyes view is very important to me. What's also important to me is that the paper or the item, your item, is not skewed. A lot of times when you're not directly above, the paper can look warped, okay? Or any item that you're using could look slightly warped, especially if it has edges. So what I like to do is I use this bubble level. You guys see that? I don't know if you can see that. I use this bubble level and it will literally tell me if I'm directly above. Using this alone, it's like $5 or something, like it's chump change, has saved my photos in regards to having it being professional looking and not warped. The warped look make it look unprofessional, just to be honest. So anyway, using this, I'll link some down below for you. In fact, I think they actually sell bubble levels for phones as well. So if I can find some online, I'll link them down below for you. So check the description box. But I highly, highly, highly recommend these if you're taking flat lays. In fact, you need to get one if you're taking flat lays, okay? So anyway, so what you're gonna do is simply obviously go above it, and using your bubble level, sorry, you're not gonna be able to see my face. Using your bubble level, you wanna make sure that, that you have it well leveled, okay? It's fairly easy to use. I don't have to really explain it. Let me just change my positioning here so you guys could see me. Hello. And obviously you turn your camera on and get the strap out of the way or whatever thing you're using, your phone or whatever. And the idea is to make sure the bubble level is completely leveled. Okay, hopefully you don't have a shaky hand. And then you're gonna go directly above it. Don't zoom in, okay guys? Don't zoom in. You could do cropping later, okay? But you wanna make sure that it's leveled, okay? And you're directly above it, so you're not like off to the side. Directly above it, so there's a lot of space around it. And again, you'll crop later. And so I'm using the level, and I'm waiting for it to see that it's like in the middle. And I'm gonna snap a photo, okay? And I'm obviously not snapping at the moment, but you get the point. I think my battery is like somewhere around here. And you're not only gonna snap a photo, you're gonna snap multiple photos, okay? So again, because you never know if that one came out blurry, you never know if it was slightly off in the bubble level, etc. So I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna make sure my bubble level is correct. And you keep snapping. My finger's like going crazy on the snapping button. And you have to try your best to stay still. Hopefully, again, you have a steady hand. Now, at this point, for this one item, you probably took, around 5 to 10 photos. Perfect, okay? Again, having it, stand far away from it so you could crop on your own. Next thing I want to point out is that, well, obviously, in this case, you would have props around here if you did. It's important to make sure the props look like they belong and that they weren't just tossed on the flat lay, okay? So it has to be purposely placed, all right? Make sure you purposely place your items, that it makes sense aesthetically, okay? And if you need to, at this point, adjust them a little bit because you think, well, the first way I laid it worked, but maybe this way would probably be better, do it because then you can take it over 10 photos and then move this item out of the way and of course, bring your next item in. But the second that item is moved, it's moved, right? So you want to make sure you rearrange your additional items around it in the best way, okay? So now, again, natural light's coming through. I used the bubble level. I took several different photos to make sure, one, they're not blurry, two, that the bubble level was actually accurate, because you don't want to only take one photo and one of them being, that one being a little slightly warped, right? And then if I need to rearrange something there, I will do it. If I have to rearrange it a few times, I will do it. And that may mean I may have a lot of different photos. But at a glance, when I upload the photos to my computer, I could see which ones will be the best ones. Or process of elimination. Get rid of the ones that are absolutely horrible. Again, don't mind the crop. You'll crop in soon. But the ones that are absolutely horrible, that look warped, you know, that the props were definitely off, etc. Okay, so now that you've done that, just remember that the lighting is not perfect in here. Okay, there's definitely some shadows. We're going to adjust all that in Photoshop, including the coloring might be slightly off and all that good stuff. But as long as you got, you know, that, you know, several photos that you could work with, you're ahead, because all you need is really one in the end. Okay, so again, comment down below if you are interested in, you know, product photography for items that are not flat lays. And I'll be happy to do a video of items that are, you know, like of jewelry or anything of a sort, just to help you guys. Okay, just let me know what type of products you sell and what type of backgrounds you have, and I'll try to replicate that and give you some tips. Okay, you know, another thing I want to point out, of course, taking multiple photos, is make sure that the focus is right. So taking multiple may mean that some of them may come out blurry. I have obviously text on mine, so it's really important that they don't come out blurry, okay? So now that I got my photos, it is time to head into Photoshop, okay? I'm gonna show you exactly what I do to edit these photos. And the best part is, in this Photoshop section of the video, I'm gonna show you not just my type of photos, but other people's type of photos. I'm going to actually be taking photos from online that, you know, need to be fixed, and show you exactly how to do it with a few simple tricks in Photoshop. And again, if you don't have Photoshop, it's okay. You could see what I'm teaching you, and then, you know, there's a lot of free online programs that will do similar things, okay? All right. Okay, now I'm going to show you how you could edit these photos in Photoshop. Now, I just took a few photos I found on the internet, particularly Etsy, where they show some examples of the things I commonly see that is a problem amongst online product photos, okay? And I'm going to show you how to fix them, okay? By no means is this an exact tutorial, but I believe, like I said, I see these issues over and over again, and I think with these little few tricks, you'll be able to adjust them yourself. Again, I'm using Photoshop here, but if you don't, that's okay. Just go ahead and pick, you know, a free online photo editor that has a few of these exact same tools, and it should give or take work the same. If you are interested in Photoshop, there's something called Photoshop Elements that is a much cheaper version of Photoshop. I'll link that down below. However, if you are in the designing field, you probably already have Photoshop. Okay, so let's get started. I have a photo here of you know, some yarns, right? I found this online, and the issue with this photo, what I commonly see, is that the shadows are off, and that's it. It's just the shadows that are off. So I'm gonna go in and obviously have this photo open. Let me increase the size just a bit, okay? And go into image and go to adjustments. Okay, there's a few different things I'll be using in this portion of the video, but I'm going to be always using, in general, I find that the best tools for people, for the most problems I see, are brightness, contrast, levels, curves, and hue saturation. And in this case, I'm going to use either, you know, levels or curves. But before I do, let me see if the brightness will work on this one. You don't want your whites to be too white. You see what happens there? So that's not a good use in this case. So I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to go back into adjustments, and I'm going to go into levels. I think levels might be the winner here. So this mid one that I'm going to slide back and forth will help adjust the mid tones. And that's what's happening. The shadows are way too dark, okay? And I don't want to obviously adjust the highlights. The highlights, if you look back here, this is the original photo. The highlights are over here. You see that? If I adjust the highlights, they'll even be more white, and I don't want that. So I'm going to move this to the left, and as you can see, It obviously lightened it up a bit, okay? And you don't want it to be so lightened up it washes out your midtones, okay? And some shadow is, you know, fine. So it's at 1.37. I'm gonna move it down this way more. Again, you don't want it to be too much. So you wanna find a good medium where it still feels like nothing is, you know, washed out. And there's ways to even correct certain sections, because as you saw while I was taking a photo, there still will be areas where it's more darker than others, and there's ways to adjust that as well. So right now I lightened it up a bit compared to the original photo, which was this. It's much better, right? So let me go ahead and redo those. Okay, now I'm going to see if I could go into curves and adjust that piece. If not, I'm gonna show you an additional trick that you could do. So you see how it's brightening up everything? It's almost similar to the other one, right? But this one, when I did it in the middle, it brightened up everything. But when I did it over here, it seemed to like leave the colors intact. I'm not sure if you noticed. There's still some dark shadowings in here that I'm gonna adjust in a bit. But this is starting to look a little better. Okay, I'm gonna leave it like that and hit OK. And then I am going to, let's see, I'm gonna put my selection tool. You're gonna find that you could use this as well to just select a certain part of your photo to want to adjust. So I'm gonna select, you know, these midtones down here. You see how it's selecting it? I don't know if you could tell in this video. And it's taking also some of the white portion here, which I'm sort of okay with. I'm gonna hit this negative button and remove some of that white portion, because I don't need it to be, okay. And so now what I'm gonna do is just play around with the midtones of that selected area. You don't wanna do it extreme because people could tell then it's a disconnect. So actually, before I continue, I'm gonna select this part as well. Okay. And I'm gonna go back to adjustments and go to levels. Do you see what I did? I just brightened it up a bit without brightening up the rest of the photo. And it removes some of that, that dark shadowing that's kind of unnecessary, all right? So I'm gonna go ahead and hit OK, and then I'm gonna remove that, you know, dotted selection line. And before I finish, I think the photo's looking much better. Before I finish, I'm gonna go into image and just adjust the hue and saturation in this case. If you're playing around with the midtones, highlights, brightness, you might have desaturated some of your colors, or they're not true to the actual yarn that you have in next to you. So I'm gonna go ahead and just hit saturate a bit. And again, I don't have these actual yarn, you know, next to me, but if indeed it did get unsaturated, then you could adjust this to saturate it more. And so if this looks unrealistic to you, then don't do it. But if, you know, if it doesn't, then of course do it. Again, adjusting your photos may affect the saturation. So I'm just gonna bump it up a bit, assuming that they're more vibrant colors in person. And that's it. There's some more shadowing happening here, but I don't think that's necessarily a problem. I think this photo is 100 times better. Let's take a look and see how much better. I'm gonna save the new one and then open the original just to show you, okay? As you could see, oops, let me move it here. As you can see, very different, right? I probably would have adjusted this a little bit more. The highlights got a little bit too bright, so I probably would have decreased the highlights in here. Just a bit, just a smidgen, but 100 times better than the original photo, which was way too dark, okay? Now, let's get into the next photo. In this photo, you're gonna see that the white is actually a tint of blue, which happens to be another popular, you know, issue amongst online products, their photos at least. And so I'm going to show you an easy way to correct this blue tint in the background. So go to images, go to adjustments, and then hue saturation. By the way, there's a few ways you can actually adjust the blue or yellowish tint. And all these ways are actually really great. I just prefer this way because it works for me most of the time. So, and it's literally the easiest way. So I go in here and I go to, instead of master, I go into the cyans, okay, or the blues. You might have to do a little bit of both, but let me try the blues first. I'm gonna go ahead to the saturate and unsaturate it. Okay, so you see what happened? It was first around here, so you can see the background, and look at it. It's removing the blue from it. Do you see that? I removed the blue from it. You don't have to do it all the way. Things might have a natural undertone of blue to it, but you definitely don't want it to be blue, right? So I just removed it, and I think it's like a million times better. I think this is meant to be yellow, this little edging, so it's fine. I would personally remove some of the shadowing here, so you could go in and adjust the levels or curves, whatever you're more comfortable with. I don't know if I said this already, but I don't particularly know the difference. I'm much more comfortable with levels, but sometimes I feel like the curves work better. It just depends. So I'm gonna go ahead into the midtones and brighten it up a bit. Okay, so it brightened it up a bit. I think the color got washed out just a bit. So as I hit okay on this one, I'm gonna go to adjustments, hue saturation. And I'm just gonna, you know, saturate the colors a bit, all of them. I'm not gonna go into one of them and saturate them because the color, there's all colors of the rainbow in this one. So I'm just gonna saturate a bit. I just went +4, and then I think that's a million times better. Let me show you to compare. Save as. I'm gonna go ahead and just name it something, and then show you the original. Okay. This is the original, guys. And this is the new one, okay? I probably would have saturated the colors just a bit more, but you get the point. Now the background is much less blue, much more white. Me personally, you know, this is a, you know, an interestingly cropped photo. I wouldn't probably have picked a textured background, but nonetheless, it still has to be white, and it wasn't, okay? And by me unsaturating the blue, it definitely helped. Okay, let's go into the next photo. In this one, it happens to be a yellow tinted background. So we're gonna do the exact same thing we just did to the blue one, but we're gonna select the yellow-ish tones and remove them. So we're gonna go here and go into the yellow and unsaturate. Okay, if you can see this is a perfect example. As I'm unsaturating it, there's still some yellow in there, and here's why. Yellow's not, what appears to be yellow is not computer yellow, if that makes sense. So while I unsaturated it, okay, I'm gonna hit okay. I'm gonna go back in and then go also to probably the greens, or actually, well, first of all, yellow means warm undertone, okay? So any of the warm colors has to be probably unsaturated. And so it could be the greens or potentially the magentas. Let me try the magenta. That helped a bit. Let me try greens. I don't think it's gonna be the greens, by the way. I think it's either the red or the magenta. There you go. And again, it might be subtle when you're viewing this. Let's say you're viewing this video on YouTube, but it did remove that yellowish undertone, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and hit okay. And then I have a problem with the shadowing on here. So I'm gonna go into my favorite levels and adjust the midtones a bit. Okay, not too much, not too much. And then I'm probably going to adjust the hue and saturation. I want to saturate the colors a bit. I feel like I lost some of that when I was adjusting. There's still some darkness I feel in here. So what I'm going to do is go into, there's a few different ways you could do this. I'm going to go into curves. Oops, that was a little too much, right? Hold on. This could be a tricky thing to use, by the way, guys. Nope, it's not working the way I want to. Let me bring this guy in. Nope. I want to just adjust the white here, but I couldn't do it without really screwing things up, you know? But I think this is definitely a lot better. And now I'm looking at it, and again, if I had the black blanket in front of me, I would probably know better, but I feel like the hue saturation could be a little better. Again, you don't want to make it unrealistic. It has to be accurate to what the product is. And so there you go. Let me see if a brightness can work a bit here. Yeah, it worked a little bit, but I wouldn't go crazy with it. And so there you go. So let's go ahead and save this one and show you the before and after, so you know what we started from. Okay. So this was the original photo, and this is the after. Obviously a lot better. We're not looking at the crop here, by the way, guys. I probably would have done a different crop or things like that, but the coloring is now fixed. Okay, let me show you one more last example. These little baby booties. This one is just a simple brightening of the photo. The whites look like they were in a dark room. They're not particularly yellow or blue, but they just need to be brightened a bit. You can easily just go into the brightening section and brighten it this way, but doing this way could really be harsh because your whites might get too white. So I think brightening it just enough is perfect, and then getting into your levels or curves, potentially adjusting the mid-tones and the brightness here. And it could be tricky. You might have to play with this a bit. You're never gonna get it right the first time, okay? And you know, this is me personally. This is important to understand. You have to start out with a really good photo first. If you have a funky background, or you know, the cropping is off or anything like that, you know, while I could adjust some things and it makes it better, like this one, it was a little bit dimmer, now it's brighter. Starting out the much better photo in terms of composition and a whole bunch of other things, you know, maybe a different type of background would probably be in your best interest, because then, you know, the whole photo would look attractive. While we did brighten this up, I'm still not 100% thrilled with this photo, probably because it's not, you know, just on a lace background. It doesn't feel quite, you know, like, wow, I need to have those baby booties, right? But anyway, we did improve the photo a lot, as you could see. And the original one, if you want to remember it, and I'll show you right now, was just a lot dimmer. That's really what it was. It wasn't a coloring issue particularly. It was just a lot dimmer. And yes, if you have the baby booties in front of you, you might have to, you know, resaturate the colors, but this will do just fine. As you could see, just use a little brightening and it's like a million times better, right? All right, guys, that is it. I just want to show you just a few different tools I use within Photoshop to make my photos a million times better. We adjust things like the blue tinted background, the yellow tinted background, shadows that kind of like looking crazy, right? We also use a selection tool to help with particular shadows if you want to adjust the whole photo. And we also adjusted the color and the hue just in case colors get washed out. And the whole purpose of all of this is not to make things look unrealistic, but to make it look more natural, okay? So I hope you enjoyed this little, you know, tutorial toward this part at the end of the video, and this whole video in total to help you adjust your Etsy online, you know, photos, your product photos, to make them better, okay? But you must start out with good photos. So remember the first part of this video where I told you how to do the research, right? To see what your style is and, you know, figure out what the common denominator is. Do that first. It's really important. Then take those photos, and then this is how you adjust. And if you want to see more videos on your product type and how to take pictures for your, you know, backgrounds, if you want to show me your photos that need help and I could do another tutorial, you know, posting a video of me adjusting your photos, then go ahead and comment down below. I'd love to do it, okay? So if you enjoyed this video, give this video a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. It would help other people find this video on YouTube. And if you want to see more content like this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below and hit the notifications bell. That way you get notified when I post a video, okay, guys? Hope you enjoyed. Bye.